independent part and talk about that is, and I've been with other companies and stuff, when you're with a large firm, and a lot of times they say, okay, this is our platform, this is what you have to do, or this is the parameters, instead of doing what maybe possibly that client, I always say clients are like snowflakes, everybody's different. They're not all the same, and you can't do a cookie cutter approach or it just won't work. Because somebody's getting shortchanged if I do that. If I said, everybody on this side of the room needs X investment and everybody needs this, I'm going to be wrong, big time wrong. So that's why I like to do, I can go out and get the best products and best investments possible rather than for that person, rather than what I have to offer for everyone. So Tanya and Linda had asked me to talk about taxes. Now, I'm not a tax person, but I can tell you a few little things that you can do as either individual or business owners to help save taxes or help tax defer things. I always tell clients, first of all, if we can tax free it, let's tax free it. If you can tax defer it, let's tax defer it. And if all else fails, then we'll have to pay taxes on them things. But there are some, vehicles. How many folks are familiar with Roth IRAs? Good. Usually there's not that. Be honest, usually there's not that many folks. I mean, they've been around maybe 20 years now, but they've really gained in popularity the last 10, 12 years. But what that is you actually do not get the tax break now when you put money into it, but you get it's all tax free at the end. And the neat thing about that is you can actually do business retirement plans anymore. And there's some companies that offer 401ks, but you can actually do a simple IRA that's a Roth version. So you don't get the tax break now. But the thing is on the small part, but you get the tax break on the large part later. When you talk about just traditional IRAs where you get the tax deduction every year, whenever you put money into it and you tax defer that, that's a good deal. I mean, it really is. But think what a good deal is for the government. They're giving you a tax break on the small part, but down the road, they're going to say, okay, we're going to tax you at your income level. And if you reach, over 70, the year after you turn 70 and a half, if you don't need the money, guess what? You're going to have to take some anyway. So we're going to get our little piece of the pie here. So that's one thing. And with the Roth, you do not have that. You do not have any tax, they call them required minimum distribution. So you do not have that. And actually, I've got a lot of people that are retired, but they actually have a part-time job. I mean, they just want something to do, or they're doing something they really care to do. And that way they can still put money in. But if you're over 70 and a half, it goes back, guess what? IRA, you can't put anything in it. Because they want to start getting their money out, the government does, so they get their tax cut. Now they're cutting the taxes, I should say. But the Roth IRA now, you can be 100 years old, and as long as you have earned income, you can put money in that thing. So that's one way, like those little things like that. Business retirement plans, those are a big thing, and there's so many of them. Everybody automatically thinks 401k, right? I mean, everybody's heard of that, but there's actually government, usually these are in hospitals and schools, like 403bs. It's kind of for nonprofits. Used to, there was some difference, and now, to be honest with you, there's not really any difference between a 401k and a 403b. So I'll be honest, I don't know why they have them. I mean, it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference. One thing you do see in these 457s, that's another one, and usually those are with police departments and firefighters. And what that is, the difference in that is you can actually, you still get the tax deferral, payroll deduction, and all that good stuff. But at 55 instead of 59 and a half, you can start pulling money out without having any taxes or penalties. Penalties. And the reason they do that is most police officers or firefighters don't work till they're 65 or 60 years old. They've got their 30, 35 years in. That job's pretty, the 60-year-old firefighter, it's just going to be a tough job, or even a policeman and stuff. So that's one reason they set that up. So there is a big difference there. For folks like us, though, I said everybody automatically thinks 401k, but for folks like us, a simple IRA, SEP IRA, even an owner K makes a lot more sense. And I'll just and there's a lot to them, but a little overview. A simple IRA is, you can do it if you have no employees or if you have, 1, 2, 10, 20 employees. instead of paying, a third-party administrator and ending up costing you $1,000 a year just to run the 401k in costs. I'm not talking about anything else, just the cost of the filings, the 5,500 filings and all that stuff. You can do a simple IRA, have it payroll deducted, you can match your employee or match yourself, which the cool thing about that is you get to actually write part of that match off. So if Jennifer and Missy work for me and I match them the first 3% dollar for dollar, I get to write, I think, about half of that off my match. So it's good for them, doesn't cost me hardly anything, but it's good for employee retention, because then that sets you apart, because a lot of small businesses do not have a retirement plan. And then you don't have all those fees. It's individual. It's basically the same, like ours is like $35 a year because we have to file with the IRS. So instead of paying, like I said, $1,000 a year, either the business owner or each individual can pay their own yearly fee. It's like $35. So it's a very cheap way to do it. And you can put up to like 10.5 in it, and stuff, plus a couple thousand catch up after age 50. The SEP IRA is a little bit different. You don't want to do that if you have employees, more than likely. Now, I've seen people that had an employee that's been with them 20 years, they're just one employee, for the simple reason you have to do for your employee what you do for yourself. So if you want to, if you have you can put up to 25% of your gross income, up to it's around 250,000. It's like 52.5, I think they upped it to this year, you could actually max. But say you want to put 20,000 in it of yours, guess what? You got to put 20,000 in for your employee. So usually not the best way to go unless you really, want to do it that way. It's more, or a husband and wife and stuff like that, or something where you're both, drawing in a salary. So it's one of the deals. You can do it, but you don't really. It's more for the business owner that's by himself that does not have any employees. Now, if you really, really want to sock some money away, and like I said, these are all tax deductible, or you get the tax break now, tax deferred to retirement. It's called an owner K. Has anybody heard of those? No. Very few people have. If you have no employees, or you have say a spouse. Now, I had a few years ago set one up for a husband and wife. They had their business and stuff, and they could put, and you can put up to like 52.5 a year each in that, and it's no percentage. So if you, say one of you, made 52,000, you put on the books or whatever, they could actually put all their money, all their salary into that owner K. So a lot of times you see that, especially like doctors, things like that, people like that that have high incomes. And that way they're not tied to even like their 401k, they only put like 16.5 or 17,000 in there now. I think they just upped it again. So those are type of things you can do as a business owner. And like I said, you need to talk to somebody and just find out what's really best for you, because there's a lot of different, I just a basic overview, but there's a lot to each one of those things, and you kind of want to make sure you're doing the right thing for yourself. Everything. So how much time have I got? Any questions? I like to keep these interactive, so just, hey, raise your hand and butt in if you want to.
Is an owner K one of those that you pay taxes on later?
Yes, it's just tax deferred just like that. And the good thing about an owner K is where a 401k literally would cost you about $1,000 a year to have, do all the filings and have a CPA, a third-party administrator. The owner K is a couple $100 a year. So it's going to cost you some money more than just a simple, but you can put a lot more. If you're going to put, $40,000, $50,000 a year away, oh yeah, it's well worth it and stuff.
And at a certain age, you can put more into the Roth?
Well, the Roth you can put, but there's also income limits on the Roth IRA too. So that's something like that. So I think it's around, for a couple, it's like $185,000 a year. So if you had two people that make 185, as a couple made over 185, you can't put anything in a Roth. But there are other things we could get into on a personal basis, because there are other things you can do to get around and to do something.
Net gross, right?
Right, it's gross and stuff.
It's gross.
Yeah, gross income. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, going through divorce and getting his 401k, that's getting transferred to me.
Okay.
Does that mean I have to take that money and put it in a 401k?
No, and this is another thing, that's an excellent question, because what happens is, if you have money, and some of you have probably heard me talk about this before, and I used it myself as an example. My mom passed away back in 2005. I was not in this career yet. I didn't know to tell her different. She passed away. She was a teacher, had a 403B. When, you know, I was taking care of everything, I'm an only child, my dad was gone, he had died already, so I said, I don't want the money. They said, no, you have to take it. I said, well, no, just leave it invested. I don't want it. No, you have to take it. So I got hit with a 10% penalty. That was all, that whole lump sum was tacked onto my income taxes, so it shot. So I'm gonna say roughly 40 to 50% of that money went to the government. So what you want to do is, plus it gives you a lot more, and all they would have had to do is tell my mom. She didn't know.
Yeah.
And the guy that was doing, you know, her other stuff didn't tell her. I mean, and so it's kind of a personal mission I like to tell people. You can do that. Plus, see, I could have, if she'd had it in an IRA, I could have had it transferred as a beneficiary IRA, and that money would still be invested for my retirement down the road, and not had to worry about anything. I would have had to take some R&Ds based on her age, but I wouldn't just, that's 1% maybe, you know, and stuff like that. So that's
So I
one
guess the
thing.
answer to your question is, it's going to be your money, check with Doug.
Well, and the
Because
thing is too, you have a
don't
lot
wanna
more
spend it.
choices. I mean, a good 401k plan is going to maybe have 20, 25 different investment options. And nobody's going to help you pick them out. They're just going to say, here's a sheet, you do it, this is what you got to offer. An IRA gives, I've got literally thousands of different things, and I can give individual attention. So if you want to talk, I'd love to talk to you. But that's, I mean, those two reasons right there, for no other reason, the stuff, so.
For those of us that need to save money for college that's coming up, so we go with our taxes, we get a refund. What's some options for us to invest the tax refund so that we can not be penalized when we need to take that money out and give it to a child to pay college?
There's a couple 529 plans. I don't know if you guys, 529 college savings plans. It's almost like a Roth IRA for college. The good thing, and I always try to tell people, there's good and bad in everything. I mean, everything has its advantages, but everything has also a disadvantage. And I've got people with 529 plans. The good part of those is if it's used for education, which is room, board, books, tuition, it's all tax-free when you pull it out. So you don't get any tax break on the money now, just like a Roth, but you don't pay any taxes on whatever it's grown to as long as it's used for an individual or for a legitimate school expense. But it just in case, say the child doesn't go to, you know, college, or they get a scholarship and you don't use that money, then you're going to get hit with a 10% penalty in income tax. Now, unless there's a lot more of this. If you had 3 or 4 kids, you'd have one, you can actually transfer that around.
Yeah.
But another option, and when I go and talk to people, I give them both options. There's also custodial accounts. That's another way. That way you're not held to that. You know, you're not held to the just education. You can use it for that, and it's based on the kid's tax rate. So an 18-year-old probably is not going to have very little income, so it's not going to get hit with taxes or anything like that. So I said there's a lot more to it than that. I know we're short on time, but those things like that, I said there's good and bad and everything. That, you know, you want to make sure you're, you know, talk to somebody and really get both sides. And I said I always try to give you both sides and everything. So.
Anyone else?